Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. We are looking at 7 games here on Tuesday in the NBA as we bring you these play-up props in this video. We also have best bets up for you in a separate one, so make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us all season. Also head to thelines.com. Use that player prop tool that's right there under the NBA tab. Make sure you're getting the best juice available to you from all of these books that are giving us bets this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get right into your first NBA play-up prop that we've got here.
Yeah, I mean, going mostly on feel here, I think, is that I do think that this Pacers-Thunder game will have a lot of points, over 235. Josh talked me off of it, saying let's take an over because the Pacers have been playing differently. But, I will take Tyrese Halliburton to hit 3 threes, and you can take the juice there at minus 120, and then you can ladder up maybe a quarter unit for him to hit 4 threes at plus 170, or bet on him maybe 20 points. But I think the threes are what I expect him to pull out of his bag here against OKC, which is so good defensively in different areas, but does give up above the break threes. And that's where Hallie is going to launch, right? And they're probably going to live with that a little bit more than him getting into the lane and getting everybody else involved with his deft passing. But they do allow the 5th highest percentage on those above the break threes at home, nearly 38%. And I mean, maybe more importantly, Halliburton finally healthy, right? 35 minutes a game in his last 4, whereas he was hovering around 25 for a while as he tried to just get the minimum games played so he can get his All-NBA, so he can get his bonus. But prior to that, I mean, before his hamstring injury, he was averaging 24.5, hitting 3.5 threes at 41%, and had been a great road player, 3.3 threes at 38% on the season. Now he's cold lately in these last 4, 20% from deep, but he keeps getting them up 6+ attempts in 7 straight. And I just see this as a bit of a duel, an all NBA duel. Like I almost went right back with SGA at his 31.5 points because, he had an off game against Memphis because he was not needed. And now he's going to come back in this game. And I just see these two guys just stepping up. So, yeah, I mean, nothing more than just the anticipation that they're going to show out, basically, in what should be a fun game to watch and one that should have plenty of points.
Yeah, I think we saw the somewhat turnaround for Halliburton after that last game against Orlando. I would agree with that. That they're not caught up yet to what Halliburton's going to be, because when you see 2.5 threes made for him, when at times this season it's been 4.5, you're like, okay, I guess I'll just take that on principle at this point. And yeah, you see the way he's been sort of going under, but yeah, they were bringing him back slowly as well, and they've been bringing him back slowly, right? Like it's been a complete ramp up. Truly, not just like play a few minutes, then right back to full squad. It's like, no, 20 minutes. Now you're at 25 minutes. Now you're at 28 minutes. Like it's been like that. And so that should be almost fully lifted at this point, enough so that what we saw against the Magic will be what we see moving forward for him. But I'm going to go with Dame. And I've actually gone under this prop a couple times this season, but I think things are a bit different now for Dame Lillard here, as I'm going to take his assists over 6.5 for Dame in this game against the Kangs. I do like an over here for this game just based on the way that these teams play each other. But if you look at the way that they've been playing as of late, even the Kings at home isn't just like an easy over at times, right? And 234.5 for the total does seem like a better over than an under. And that's at least why I think that there's going to be some open space play here for both these teams. Dame has gone over twice in his last 2, rather, versus this squad. One of them was with Portland, and then one was earlier this season with the Bucks. Now, the Kings specifically, this is a lot of what it's predicated on, is like Dame's got the potential assists. The Kings are giving up a ton of assists to his type of player, his playmaker profile, if you will. Shout out Courtside Pal once again. And just point guards in general on the season, 4th most assists per game to the position. Dame's a true point guard for sure. And 5th most assists per game over their last 10. They're in the bottom 10 in terms of allowing assists in general. Like it's just been a bad defense in transition. It's been a bad defense in terms of when there's space for the offense as well. And then Dame's potential assists have gone up, right? We've seen them as low as like 9 a game for a large portion of the first half of the season. Since the All-Star break, in the 9 games that he's played, he's far and away leading the team, 14.5 potential assists, getting 6 and 9. He's gotten this number, got 6 in one of them as well. And he's got 7.5 assists in the 35 minutes that he's playing. So like the 7 that he needs here, I feel good about when you get a slight uptick from the fact that this Kings team does not limit you around the perimeter at all. I think the threes are also going to be there for him, but the corner three should be there for him as one of his options. We know that when he's above the break, and he's obviously got the option now off of the pick and roll to either shoot, hit the roll man, who's Brook Lopez, and not always receive it on the receiving end a lot of those pick and rolls, to be honest. And then that's where the corner three comes into play for this team as they've been continuing to hit that really well. So I think his potential assists at 14.5, I'll take him to get 7 in that if he's going to keep having that many. I like the 50% clip for him to keep getting assists out of those potential ones.
Yeah, I think he's finally starting to find his rhythm with the Bucks, which is crazy to say because he's still putting up great numbers for anyone but Damian Lillard when he's on fire. Maybe Chris Middleton's back for this one, but he should be on a minutes limit. And Dame actually did have 15 assists his last 2 with Middleton. Like that could only help really space the floor, I think, and get that offense clicking in general. So once again, I am going with a shooter to break out of a slump basically here. Dante DiVincenzo, 21.5 points and rebounds. Underrated rebounder to a degree. And I mean, I just don't have any respect for Philly's offense, though. Although Maxey is returning, I mean, they are shooting 42% since the All-Star break, third worst, barely ever getting to the free throw line, and detailed a little bit why the Knicks aren't probably not going to be called for too many fouls here at home under this new point of emphasis, which is like, don't give away these cheap fouls to guys leaning in. So just more rebound opportunities for DiVincenzo, who's averaging 5.3 boards on 9.6 chances in his last 7 here, just playing 37 minutes per game. I mean 39 minutes per game actually in his last 3. And he's been cold from deep, 28%, but still gone over this prop in 2 or 3. And he went over this prop in a game that was 79-73 and just utterly gross because, he's just going to keep shooting, keep cutting, and take advantage of the fact that the backcourt for Philly now is going to be both Lowry and Maxey, which is just like guys who are not athletic enough to deal with Dante DiVincenzo at the rim. Philly has no real rim protection behind that. Mo Bamba, Paul Reed, all right, but it's certainly not Embiid. And I mean, DiVincenzo, when he shoots, I mean, he's going to continue to do so. I'm sorry, not when he shoots. He will shoot. He has attempted 13 threes here in this cold spell, but shot just 28%. He's attempted double-digit threes in 7 straight. So once again, yeah, I'm just thinking that if the attempts are there, like the points should be there, and then I think there will be more rebounding opportunities than usual. So if you want to take over on 4.5 boards, that's something he's averaged a little bit more than as well, just due to this playing time.
It makes sense. I've been attacking boards. I did it the other game I was telling you about. I took Precious and Isaiah Hartenstein over rebounds in that game for a little same game parlay and hit them both as well because of how awful Philly's shooting has been. I'm not feeling quite as comfortable about that with Maxey in. There's probably going to be a few more longer attempts as well. There are a few more 3-point attempts. That's good for Dante, but he's been crashing both the offensive and defensive boards pretty well. And there should be plenty of rebounds to go around. And I do like taking him to come out of a slump when he's got Jalen Brunson out there. Like that's kind of what the MO has been since OG went down. Now, if OG comes in, that kind of screws a little bit up, right? And I don't know. It's 50-50. I'm not going to try to guess, right? Like, first of all, Tibbs will just bury you into the ground and grind you into dust and not care if you're injured or not, if you can get out there. So it's like, if you can walk, you can play is probably the theory from Tibbs. So I have no idea what's going to happen with OG. But if he does not play, then yeah, I still like the focal point of the offense to be Jalen Brunson, do whatever you want. If you don't have anything, Dante DiVincenzo is allowed to shoot from wherever he is on the floor. That's been the offense since all the key players on offense went down for these Knicks. So I'm going to close it out here with a bet that I didn't tell you about until I'm telling you right now. Chet Holmgren and Nate and I obviously usually confer out these things a good amount, but this last one I'm switching it up on him a little bit. Chet Holmgren over points and assists, going 19.5 there. And I got a couple of thoughts here, right? Which is Chet's going to be playing out in the 3-point line. He's not banging down low. Miles Turner's not a banger in that sense. So, like, I do think the minutes will still be there for Chet. And that's what's most important first of all, is obviously volume. You need to be on the floor to get points. You've got J-Dub out in this one as well. I think he's still listed as like doubtful or even like really questionable, but he's out like at least this week is from what I understand, following Zach Lowe, not Zach Lowe from the NBA, not from ESPN, Zach Lowe, who covers the Thunder. I can understand how that'd be confusing, but he is tweeting about how, he doesn't expect J-Dub to be coming back anytime in this week specifically, which is at least a couple games. That puts Chet Holmgren right in the driver's seat of like basically number 2, to be honest, right? Like, I mean, Giddey's going to get his in terms of like having the ball in his hands. You might see a bit more of him, but really when it comes to like the dude that they trust as the second option next to Shai, you're talking about Chet Holmgren now. This is an indie team too that gives up a ton of assists to centers, and especially like Chet over here in their last, really for the whole season, but in the last roughly, let's say, the last week, we're talking about them giving up the 6th most assists to the position on the season as well. Just a ton that they give up, 4th most to the position as well. And Chet's a guy that can dime it up, right? Like he is a guy that is a ball handler, was a point guard as recently as like 3 years ago when he was still like 6'2" or whatever, before he just shot right up. And so that's partly why, it's the main reason why this dude's been so versatile all season. The potential assists for him, they're there when he plays a team that doesn't really have a true center. And I'm sorry, I'm not calling Miles Turner a true center. If you never ever play with your back to the basket, if you have 0 low post game, and if really you're more, if you're a better shot blocker coming off of your guy rather than playing one-on-one defense, there's some numbers you can look at with defensive impact for him, right down low, and that they're not very good for Miles Turner. If you want to take him one-on-one, Chet won't even be playing from the basket. He's just going to be playing from the, basically like 3-point line to foul line and in. That's what he's going to be doing his damage. And once he drives and some of these dudes come over, that's a huge reason why this indie team gives up so many assists in general, which are pretty much the most in the league, because of the fact that they don't switch well. And a lot of their guys get beat off of the dribble right away. So I do think as long as like Indy's not fouling after they sort of get imbalanced and Chet is able to get to the basket, this should be a good opportunity for him to get his assists. As far as the points and everything, just look at his numbers with and without J-Dub, everything goes up, including the points and assists for him. So as long as he gets the minutes, which I do believe he'll get in a game where he's not in, like they're not really worried about him getting either hurt or big boyed by anybody, then he should be in there for 30 to 31 minutes or so.
I was actually typing this in. Yeah, I was going to take his points and rebounds, but decided it was a little high. But yeah, really the same logic is that Miles Turner not going to be able to deal with a true stretch 5. He's like a stretch 5 from 4 or 5 years ago in the NBA, where they're like, oh, look at this big man able to step outside, and then the game just immediately passes him by, and it's like, no, yep. you are not quick enough for these dudes. I'm sorry, now you're in no man's land defensively, at least. So yeah, I think especially with J-Dub out, Chet will be the secondary playmaker. This is a good call for him to just have the ball in his hands and be able to get points and assists.
It's so unfair. It's so unfair for guys like Miles Turner when it's like, you're the new wave of things, man. And then now you've got Victor Wembanyama that breaks our brain, and actually also the second best guy at doing that, Chet Holmgren, who also kind of breaks our brain, man. And AD was even another dude who kind of came along and was like, nah, sorry, this is what it is now. Like, you got to be able to dribble and shoot threes and play guard all 5 positions. So Miles Turner ain't it as far as that goes. But that is all the time we have for you in these player props. Continue to follow along. We're coming at you each and every weekday with both these videos, best bets that we have up in the other one, these player props. Until we see you next, happy betting.